Hi there, I'm Soraya,
I'm Paolo.
and we're here to
Get your shit together. There we go, man.
This is an exciting episode just because we have our first guest. It's a friend of mine from God knows how many years. Clapton Girls. Shout out to Hackney. Yep. And yeah, she's now a lawyer. So she's here to give us some of her expertise.
Let's go.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Oh, I don't know where to start. Where do we start in respect to law? I mean, even crime is a very large area, so...
You know what, just before we get on to, like, our roles, because I feel like, especially with day-to-day, we always talk about our careers. Our podcast is mainly about just being 30 and trying to get our stuff together, right? So... Yourself, how are you feeling? How do you feel about life in general? Do you feel like you're there? Because I feel like when we were in school, 30-year-olds seem like grown.
You're still very young, okay? Yeah. I think as soon as you enter your 30s, there's this like automated societal pressures of, are you married, you have kids, you have your own property. There's so much pressure that everyone needs to ignore because we're living in a different generation. There's different times, cost of living, and they need to just focus on what makes them happy and career. Well, for me, it was career progression.
Do you think that it's because of like our parents growing up? They had houses and that when they were like 20, but the houses cost like 100 quid. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
my parents weren't even in this country.
Right. And they were having like lots of kids and just managing children and stuff, and we're like struggling to get ourselves ready in the morning.
See, I've never grown up in that because I've always, my mum, I come from council estate, like that's my life. Yeah. I'll be honest.
I think most of us do, you know. I think
born and raised in Hackney in a council estate. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. My mum's always been council rich that doesn't own her own property, but they've always grown up like see the people around them and stuff like that, and they want us to buy houses and do everything else. But I don't think obviously they realise how expensive it is now. It's bad.
100%.
Can't get a toilet alone in central London is going to cost you £1,800 a month. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
just the toilet.
Have you seen them adverts? There's like literally a shoebox of a room, and they're charging £2,000 a month. And I think it's quite selfish. And I understand we're a capitalist society, and everyone's each for their own. But as a society, we're going to have more crime, right?
I'll never be out of work. That's for sure.
Well, that brings us to you, Rojin, because obviously there was a few of us that wanted to study law. Only a few made it, and you're one of the few that actually went on to practice law. So tell us a bit about yourself.
So we've already touched upon upbringing. I was born and raised in Hackney. It will always be my home. I did buy property outside of Hackney, but in the London area, because I'm a London lawyer, I couldn't exactly move out. I appreciate that not everyone's in that position and that some people are just moving out of the United Kingdom because it's just not manageable here. But in respect to upbringing, I love the fact that I was born and raised in Hackney. Those who are born and raised in Hackney, there's something special about us.
100%.
I'm talking about, we know how to communicate. Diversity for us is a norm. Okay? Yeah. I didn't realise how diverse Hackney was until I moved out for uni when I was doing my undergrad. And it's amazing because I don't have that issue.
Sorry about that. So bad of me. Yeah, go on.
I don't have that issue when it comes to communicating, which of course helps with my clientele. I can just speak to anyone and advise and represent anyone from any walk of life, whether you're from poverty, wealth, it makes no difference to me.
100%, and even like the field of work I work in education, I can relate to so many students of all backgrounds, and I think if you're not born in a place that is so diverse, you don't really have the skills like that.
I really do care about their needs, their interests. And to be fair, before I was even a lawyer, I was always student voice. You remember that? So, you know, I always used to be like school prefect or student president. I just had that desire from a very young age. And I think maybe from my cultural background as a Kurd, where we were, and kind of still are oppressed as an ethnicity. And my mum raised me well, she educated me well, and that's what got me into human rights naturally, you know, and speaking on behalf of those that are helpless, helping the helpless, being the voice for the voiceless. And that's really where my passion was, because, you know, witnessing people suffering, but they neglect themselves.
What the three main challenges that you kind of
Personally
face, yeah.
All right, as much as I love Hackney, I had to oppress some of it within me, okay? Because I used to get judged with, how do I say this? My supervisor, upon qualification, used to always say, you can take the girl out of Hackney, you can't take Hackney out of the girl, constantly, and laugh. I did not take that as an insult. I said, what's your point here? Okay, I'm doing my job and I'm doing it well.
Right.
But my first challenge was that judgment. That some clients and supervisors and in the legal industry, they'll capture it straight away. It comes down to academia.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the set qualifications. It comes to determination. I'm doing the job and I'm doing it right. You know, but that was my first challenge is, you know, I remember there was one interview. It wasn't just a walk in the park. Let me tell you that, okay, when it comes to qualification, it was like a tough obstacle course. It was, we don't even have the time today to get through the details of the journey to qualification, but we thank God. Being from Hackney used to be used against me. It used to be used against me.
In court cases,
just
or
in
just
the legal,
in
like in the legal field, it could be used against me. I remember there was one interview I went to in the city. He just took one look at me. He said no already. I was thinking, what's the point of this interview? You've already made up your mind.
Made a judgment, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just not all city firms are like that. Definitely not the one that I'm in now. They're all open for diversity.
But you see, if that happens in a professional, like you say, you've seen it happen before, yeah.
It's happened
like,
to me.
you know, with a lot of workplaces now, if that's to happen, people will be in trouble. Is that just but yeah, it is. But then, like, in a law firm where, like, you're practicing law and you see discrimination there, like, is there anything you can do? Like, is there anything you can do? Because you haven't got the job, it's just like, yeah, all right, see you later, you're going. But
or like, even like, how do you prove that it was that? Because obviously people have biases. Sometimes they show it in different ways. How do you prove it was discrimination against ethnicity, or like they could give you an interview just to meet the quota, but it's like they could just not offer you the job anyway? How do you prove there is racial discrimination there or some sort of judgment?
Now that's a difficult topic to get into, and the reason why I say that, most of my clients sometimes use that card. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it genuinely is a discrimination case, and I've dealt with that. I had a case where my client, African male, was just cycling, okay? Stopped by the police for why? Okay, and I submitted a discrimination claim. You didn't stop any white males on bikes. Why have you stopped my client? Because he's black? Reasonable suspicion. I hate that terminology. I'm gonna get into it because it's so vague and open.
But do they not say to you? We see videos online of people getting stopped all the time. Reasonable suspicion, but what does that even like? Do you see where I'm coming from? Is there any?
So on that point on reasonable suspicion, and the reason why I hate the terminology, it comes down to discretion. It comes down to the police officer's discretion following all the circumstances. So on that case, in respect to my my African client on a bike, I got that case dropped because it was upheld that he had no reasonable suspicion other than the fact that he was black and cycling to stop my client. Sorry, I get a bit passionate on these matters.
No, 100%.
But when it comes to reasonable suspicion, one officer may believe they have reasonable suspicion to stop someone, whereas another doesn't. I mean, you know, even the terminology discretion is so open and vague. In short, anyone can be stopped by the police.
Yeah, but we can see, even looking at statistics, which groups are targeted the most.
You know what happened to me once? Do you know this occurred, right? Okay, I'm blatantly Middle Eastern, okay? I had a huge rucksack, right? Huge rucksack. Filled with law books, by the way, right? And I'm walking to law school. I'll never forget this experience. I don't know why I was doing that. But there was a police officer on a bike, a pedal bike, right? And I noticed he was following me. And I turned right, he was still following me. I turned left, he was still following me. I started smiling. I was like, I really hope he stops me. Because he's just seen a Middle Eastern with a big rucksack. What does he think? Terrorist, yeah? So I was like, I really hope he stops me. And opens up this huge rucksack. And all he sees is law books. Followed me all the way to law school. And I looked back and I smiled.
I was with my friend Femi. We was in the car. He's driving. There's us here in the BMW. There's 4 cars
Yeah,
behind.
they don't like the bimmers.
So we're here. There's 4 cars between us and the police car.
Yeah.
Police car has seen us in the car. Windows are up. My friend doesn't smoke in the car. He doesn't smoke cannabis. But he doesn't even smoke cigarettes in his car. He won't do it. He was like had it all cleaned out. So our windows are up. We've gone to turn left. Police has cut up 4 cars to get to us, blocked us in. Another car's come the other way. So we've got out the car now, and he's gone, I smell cannabis. And we're like, but the windows are up.
Who said that?
The police officer's gone, we need to stop you because I smell cannabis.
Oh.
So we said, but okay, so
From
even
4 distance
I
down,
said
4
4 distances.
down.
I said we don't smoke it for one, but I was like, even if we did, the windows are up. How are you smoking it? How are you smelling it? Anyway, gets out the car and starts asking us questions. We had 2 young police officers who were actually okay, to be fair. The older one, I could use language for him, but I'm not. This is a professional podcast, so I'm going to say that he was uneducated. So he'd come up to us, started asking us questions. He started asking me where I worked. I said, because I was just getting annoyed at this point.
I'm going to prepare you guys on how to react. I'll prepare you guys on how to
and then he's gone
react.
to my friend, how did you buy this car? He goes, that's none of your business. What do you do for a living? Did you buy it by cash? So this is what happened. Didn't find anything. Then goes, oh, you lot are free to go. Drive off. I go, is that it? Like,
yeah, you know what?
madness.
I think it'll be quite useful to know, like, stop and search. Firstly, what are our rights? I've got nephews that have been thrown, beaten on the floor because no one's been there.
Let me get you prepared, please. Okay. If you ever find yourself being stopped by police, and that could easily happen, do keep calm, okay? Because what we wouldn't want, if you react negatively, they could easily get you done for a Section 5, Section 4 public order offence, okay? So you need to be mindful that as soon as you're in contact with a police officer, and let me put it out there as well, yes, we can't stand the negligent police officers. And guess who can't stand the negligent police officers most? The competent police officers. And I feel sorry for them. And we need to and I salute the police officers doing their jobs right, protecting our children from paedophiles, you know, lessening crime. My mum actually loves the police, okay? She
So does mine.
If there was no police officers, we all have hell on earth.
Yeah.
No, we
kind of
need them.
already
We need
kind of
them.
there, you know?
Yeah.
We already, so honestly, we need to salute and we need to respect the police officers doing it
The good
right.
ones. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we really
100%,
do, okay?
100%.
I deal with actions against the police as well, but they're the police officers, like you said, uneducated, doing it wrong. So to prepare you, when an officer has stopped you, he may have body-worn footage on, so you're on camera, yeah? So be mindful of what you say and do, okay?
But do you know what's crazy, Roisin? Sometimes when you want the footage, they'll say, oh, it got deleted, especially if they
Hold
know they're in the
fire.
wrong.
We'll get onto evidence, right? I'm just preparing you on how to react. So just be mindful you're being recorded, okay? So, and with body-worn footage, it's not just visual, it's audio as well, okay? Be cooperative and just ask them, officer, what's your full name? What's your warrant number? That's their passport, that's their identification, okay? What's your warrant number? Why are you stopping me, officer? Because really, they should introduce themselves. They should tell you why they are stopping you. And they should, when it comes to actually strip search, they're only allowed to ask you to take outer clothing. Anything personal and private needs to be done, of course, out of public.
In a station or something,
Yeah. So just be mindful of just taking their name, their warrant number, the reason why they've decided to arrest you, and redirect him to speak to my lawyer. Okay, so if they put the allegation, I don't know, burglary, for instance, don't ever make any mention concerning the allegation held against you, because you have no clue. It could be a case of misidentification. It could be a case that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the officer's just conducting his duties, their duties to investigate, and that's essentially what they do. They don't have the power to charge you. They're just investigating.
So now just say, for example, let's put a young person out there. A young 17 or 16-year-old boy, been stopped, searched, thrown around, gets picked up based on whatever suspicion they do have, but they find nothing on the child, right? No knives, no cannabis, nothing. They sign a little ticket to say, oh yeah, we stopped you for this reason. Obviously, there's no specific reasons. What can that child do to now say, you've wrongfully done that to me?
The main point that stood out to me from what you said, why are they manhandling this child and throwing him to the floor? And it happens.
It happens.
Then this comes to AAP, Actions Against Public authorities, namely the police force. Okay, you can submit a complaint against the police, and if you're not satisfied with the response that you received to your complaint, you can go further to claim.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I feel like, obviously, as well, growing up in London and seeing stuff happen to a lot of my friends growing up, I feel as if they've probably lost even faith in that when that happens, that police are taken to their own sort of investigations for wrongfully doing stuff, wrongfully manhandling, whatever. I think people feel as if like nothing's going to happen, and 80% of the time police officers get off. The stories that are highlighted in the be it the news or the ones that people can see publicly, a lot of the time the police officers are never actually held to account for doing wrongdoing. So I feel like the system can be a bit broken there. And I think
the system is broken.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even know where to start in respect to the criminal justice system.
They've got no faith in that process. Because there's not enough results, and police officers get away with doing wrongful stuff.
And even going back to like how much energy do we have? I've got so many complaints that I've put up with the police. Have I chased it up? No, because life gets busy, life admin, all of that. They get a response. You get a response 6 months later. And another thing as well.
You're lucky if you get a response 6 months later. 6 months, that's quick, you know.
Crazy.
Well, they see my name, they're like, I need to reply to that.
Sorry, do they do that on purpose, by the way? So
no, they'll probably have like a case file they have to backlog,
understaffed, underfunded,
underpaid.
Under-resourced.
Well, I think they all use that excuse anyway. Like,
no, I think they are underpaid though.
I mean, who's not?
No, but
who's not underpaid?
But the good, when you look at the broader spectrum of like what police officers do, and the job,
no,
they've got a mad job.
So
like, hours are insane.
Even teachers are underpaid, doctors are underpaid. Like the people
What's
that you
the
need.
Government doing?
But coming back to even like with my family, because they come from Bangladesh and because they've seen police officers really abuse their rights, they will batter you, like physically batter you, and there's nothing. My mum, if like one of my family members come and say, oh, the police did this, she'll be like, oh, that's nothing. Like for us, I feel it's like true, I think when it comes to like young kids, especially the younger boys that might be involved in gangs or might not be involved in gangs, when they go to their parents, I think the disconnect is, well, when we were growing up, police used to batter us and we had to get on with it. This is nothing. Fix up.
When you talked about the police for in this country and how they don't have enough respect, power, whatnot, I look at other countries, and although their methods are unconventional, the police are so respected over in these countries. I'll use Portugal as an example. My uncles used to tell me that when they used to get arrested by the police, they wouldn't get charged. They get taken down to the police station. They'd have books put against their ribs. They get punched. They punch the books through the ribs so that the ribs wouldn't bruise, so that they couldn't take it further. But they'd get beaten up in jail. They'd get released. Wouldn't do it again. It's not fair. It's defo not fair. But what I'm trying to say to you is, in other countries, they have a mad approach, but then it creates public order. So
what's your proposal?
Hang on. I'm saying to you, like, here, how do the police get respect, get more authority without breaking everybody's ribs?
Do you know what?
You need to do it in a normal way.
Police are lacking respect in this country.
Yeah, do you know what I think it is though? I think it's because, like, for example, if you're Portuguese in Portugal and they're doing it, it's not based on discrimination. Here, because there's so many racial, like, sort of discrimination towards people, that's why we have a lack of trust.
Oh no, Portugal's very racist.
No, they are, but I can imagine. But I can imagine they do that to the native
certain
Portuguese. Do you get what I mean? Like, what I'm saying is, when you're doing it to a native, like, if you're treating English people as an English officer like that, fine, we can have that sort of like expectation. But if you're doing it just to the ethnic minorities, that's why we have issues with the police, because there's so much racial discrimination anyway. We can't trust an officer with that level of power. We can't give them that because they will abuse it.
I hear it, and I'll react to that. I'm just going to go back to a point before all of my sisters and cousins get me in a headlock. It's not but it's as racist as other places. Like, don't think because it's a different country.
Well, I think Europe, there are lots of nations in Europe, and like Spain is. You see it in football, right?
Yeah. Fact.
Racists, what they do.
Yeah, going back to the point. Yeah, I don't know, and I can't see how they get more respect and trust, because communities don't trust police officers. But then also that comes down to, that's not solely police officers' faults, because I feel as if as well, it's such a broad spectrum of a subject, but you could argue, me growing up, I grew up in youth centres. I used to go to youth centres as a kid. How many of them do you see around now? So you could argue that the system that we've got for kids now, there's nothing for them to do. So they grow up and they're pulled into X, Y, and Z because they've got nothing to do.
Do you know, on that topic, I've of course represented quite a few criminals, alleged criminals, and there was one juvenile I was representing, youth, and when I asked him, I really want to understand my clients. I always have. And for those who judge me, it's ignorant, okay? To judge a defense advocate and say, how can you represent criminals? How can you be so naive and, you know, ignorant in your submissions? Because firstly, why are you assuming they're guilty?
Yeah.
Secondly, they need help.
Yeah.
You don't know the story, but they need help. And going back on that juvenile, when I said, why did you do it? I was bored. What? Write a poem or a rap
And
or
they're
a
13,
song.
14.
But I think even just...
I hear it, like, it's mad.
I swear, I was a nerd, During my teenage years, I was part of the gospel choir. I wasn't even Christian at that time. The jazz band, the steel pans... What was I? Seymour in the Horrors. I was keeping myself occupied in hobbies.
Yeah, but I feel like us going to a girls' school, and our girls' school was actually really good. It really pushed us. I can't imagine, like, even when I think about our friends, we were studying outside of school, like, just for the sake of studying. We were different, but but we weren't like goody two shoes. Coming back to like the broken society, schools are underfunded. Lots of these kids are excluded from school because teachers don't have that resource, so they push them out. Then they're on the streets. Like, it's a cycle. Society's broken because of so many issues, and it's not just, you know, he was bored. He was probably bullied. He was probably kicked out of school. There were so many other things. His family are probably not. They've disconnected because
gender as well.
Gender.
I remember at the time being raised in Hackney. I used to be very thankful that I was a girl.
A girl, yeah.
Because I used to think to myself, if I was a male.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened.
The struggles are so different for a boy. I think there's another pressure because it's either you're in with them or you get beaten up and constantly attacked regardless.
I don't know why they decided to start closing down youth centres.
Youth centres, youth initiatives. I met some of my really close friends going to youth centres, playing football, like different activities that were set up. They used to do a thing for kids when I was younger called Kicks, where they used to have like us turn up and you pay like £1 to go and play football for 2 hours. Like, no, I'm not even joking. Like, that's but amazing. There was like 30, 40 people going, 30, 40 kids that are not doing.
It all comes back to funding, and like all of us get taxed loads. Where is this money going? Why is society not helping the future generation? Because they will take jobs after us. If they're not equipped, how are they going to run the country? Does that make sense? It's like we need to start investing in kids anyway, younger children. But it all comes back to funding and how is our government using our money.
I worked with youth and kids for 5 or 6 years in a aspect of coaching and football. 3-4 years of that I'd done it for. I didn't do it for a charge. Yeah, last 2 years I had to. I didn't have a choice. But 3-4 years I'd done that free of charge and gave my services every Saturday morning, whatever. I enjoyed doing it. I got something out of it, and I enjoyed just seeing them happy and grow up and stuff. They're older now. This is what makes me feel old. They're like 18 now. Yeah. I coached them since they were 13. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. So,
and it's nice you did that with the kindness of your heart. And obviously, when you had to charge, you have to charge cost of living. But just because obviously our clientele, whoever watches our podcast, is not going to be those that might be stopped and searched. I did want to go onto a topic that might relate more to us, which is consent.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially where casual relationships are more common now. People are struggling to find the love of their life. What is consent?
Okay. Firstly, the first evident point, factual point, is age. And this comes down to where you are. And I must stress that, okay? Because we've got people travelling, you know, don't catch feelings, catch flights.
Catch flights, not feelings.
Blah. Yeah. Anyways, that's dangerous. I'll tell you why. Because when they are carelessly travelling abroad without having the knowledge of the law
over there,
abroad, you're putting yourself at risk. There's a lot of case law of it, okay? If you're going to travel to a country, for instance, like Morocco, or anywhere, in fact, you need to respect their culture. You need to respect the law. Because if you get caught up in it, you're getting arrested.
Right.
And thrown into their prisons and then deported back. And so in respect to consent, I'm qualified England and Wales. I could comment on
England,
my jurisdiction. It's, of course, the age of 16. Personally, professionally, I'll tell you it's the age of 16. Personally, I think that's so young.
It says 16, but then in some cases it has to be 18. Otherwise, it's like statutory rape.
Are you talking about as a teacher or?
No, so like just say say if you're in a respected body or a professional adult working with this person, young person, just so you're not abusing your position of power. Doesn't that age then go up to 18? Right. Can pursue. So if they're
that's the factual element in respect to age in this country. But consent is a very huge area that most people do not understand. Now, the most common mistakes or overlooked points are intoxication. Now, the amount of clients I've had attempting to use being intoxicated as an excuse, not realising it's no excuse, it's aggravating. And not only is it aggravating, they cannot give you the consent if they're intoxicated, which makes me question the amount of people that have been raped during nights out. If they are intoxicated and you have sex with them, they do not have the capacity to consent.
What if you're both intoxicated?
Then what the hell are you doing? You both don't have the capacity to consent.
No, but it's true though. Like,
you
if
just
you're
had
both
unconsensual
sex.
Yeah,
that's crazy though, because it's just.
So the first thing is age. Okay, whatever country you're at, you need to look at the legal. For instance, if you go in Dubai, it's 18.
And coming back to that, so Aaron, the boy that went abroad,
he got arrested because he had sex with someone that was 17.
17, but they were age mates. They were in the same school. They knew each other from London.
What does that
They
mean?
went there and
you're going to a strictly Arab country.
And the age for tourists to have sex was 18.
Why didn't she get arrested, by the way?
Because she was in the UK and she was the victim technically by law. So in Dubai, it's 18 for tourists to have sex, whereas in the UK, it's 16, right? So because he didn't know that, and it's someone he was already dealing with, the mum came back here, called the police in Dubai. I feel like that's so calculated.
No, she knows what she's doing there. That vexes me. I'm not gonna lie to you.
100%.
Because if you'd have called in Dubai, your daughter would be in prison as well.
If your daughter was in this country, you would have no power to do that to a young boy, and you've ruined, because he has to now pay for his own legal fees, his own apartment. They have started a GoFundMe, but yeah, just coming back to that. So educate yourself, definitely.
Yeah, number one, educate yourself. You're going abroad, you need to check what their age limit or starting point is. And secondly, if you're intoxicated, there's no consent, okay? And thirdly, it can happen at any time. And what I mean by that, it could happen during sex. I dealt with a case, husband and wife, by the way. Wife,
What?
Yeah.
It happens.
Doesn't matter.
Marriage doesn't mean consent. Yeah.
Just because you're married doesn't mean you have a duty to have sex with me as and when I want.
No, but you're saying during sex. So
let me go into that, right? So this is where it gets a bit difficult on technicality, right? So they were having I got him acquitted, okay, because she was fabricating, and we'll get into fabricated accounts. But it was consensual as they started having sex. Midway, apparently, she stopped giving consent, and then she ended it off with consent. And it went as far as to the Crown Court. He spent some time in prison in the sex offenders wing. The experience wasn't nice. I'm just gonna say that, okay, because he's surrounded by some of the guilty,
of course, who thrive off doing stuff like that. We got him out on a not guilty. So was it that midway she said no? Does it have to be verbal? Does it have to be explicit?
No.
Can it be physical?
So the point of this case is that consent can stop at any time, even during sex.
How do you know?
Exactly. It doesn't need to be verbal. It could even be physical. So examples where they say they've just frozen or they've pushed them away.
What if I push the girl away? What are the chances of her then getting done or like if I then decide, you've now assaulted me? That's not going Crown Court. Like I feel like it only goes Crown Court for the woman.
Okay, I've worked in criminal defence since 2016, and in my personal experience, professionally, I've never had a male victim for a rape case. It always has been female, but it can be. You just simply report it to the police.
I I understand that, but what I'm saying
I get the point you're making.
You get the point I'm making.
Is it going to be pursued to the very end?
So like they will go, and people like let's be honest, they'll go. Males predominantly, I feel like there's this misconception that males can't be raped, not by the professional justice system or anything like that.
A man can say no, stop.
people will say like, "How did you get raped?" Because you're stronger than that.
Yeah.
It's mad. Like,
No,
but it's true though. You
just
see
comes
it.
down to consent, you know.
Yeah.
And it is difficult because in that case, we just thought, okay, what are we saying to males having sex? Well, every 5 minutes you check, like, are you still consenting?
Yeah.
And again, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah. How do you
difficult.
check in?
How
Yeah,
is he
exactly,
to know
yeah.
that midway
Yeah.
during their sexual intercourse
Yeah.
that she stopped giving consent? Jury didn't buy it, by the way. That's why he
That's
got acquitted.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is why he got acquitted.
But there's lots of
so.
rape cases that actually don't get their guilty for the perpetrators.
Oh, you're talking about
if you actually been raped, like it's actually quite hard.
I'm talking about the
innocent one, yeah.
I'm talking about the innocent.
Yeah, and the guilty ones.
Of course, there's rapists out there,
Yeah.
okay, and they need to serve their time.
Even in actual victims where they haven't lied, when it does go to court, even then juries can sometimes find the perpetrator not guilty,
Yep.
and it's actually quite a higher chance to not be found guilty, right?
Statistically,
Yeah.
at the
So
Crown
it's
Court.
actually quite sad
It
because
comes down to
the real
jury.
victims, the real victims, they might not get justice. Then you've got the women that lie or the men that lie,
Yeah.
and they, and
I
it's
think that's exactly why there's so many genuine victims
Yeah.
who just don't
Can't-
bother
they don't bother,
reporting
yeah.
because they think, wait,
Yeah.
do I want to relive? And these are the issues, actually.
Yeah.
I'll say it in turn.
Yeah.
Do I want to relive the experience over and over and over again? Because not only are they going to have to submit a statement, they need an ABE, achieving best evidence. They're going to need to, they'll have to be recorded because it's a serious allegation, indictable only. Secondly, I'm going to have to wait years. Do you know the backlog the Crown Courts are dealing with? One of my trials listed in 2027. That's how long a victim has to wait.
Yeah. You know,
Can I-
And you're just living with a nightmare.
I want to go back to something very quickly you said because
That's why
I
they
do
don't
think it's
report, you know.
important. I feel I got to hold it down over here. You know what I mean? But listen, like, why is it as well? I feel as if, and I do have to ask this question because I'm sure a lot of men in my position would be asking this. Why, like, in terms of a male where you see a lot of cases of rape and stuff like that are not specifically rape cases, do you not? I mean, you can answer this, but do you think or do you not think if someone has falsely accused someone of rape, why aren't they going to prison about it?
They should.
And I'm not asking you to give me the. I'm just asking, like, we don't see it enough. Like, there's cases of, like, say,
even domestic violence.
Violence cases that are fabricated. Why is the person and it doesn't have to be a male, female, if they fabricated the case of rape or domestic violence, why are they not up for the same charges that the person accused is of? Like, because we don't see that.
It wouldn't be the same charge. It'd be perverting the course of justice. So they're always open and at liberty to submit a counter allegation. But I must stress to you, achieving a no further action at the police station or a not guilty at the stage of court doesn't necessarily mean you are not guilty. I need to make that clear. Because getting cases dropped or, it can just come down to lack of evidence.
It's like the Mason Greenwood one, the footballer.
It can just come down to lack of evidence.
Yeah.
So when clients say, oh, no further action or not guilty, regime, compensation time, I'm thinking, darling, like, you had a case.
Yeah. And I just wanted to quickly touch on, obviously, there's different versions of rape. So there's like oral rape, there's anal rape, there's different rape. And I think people also are not uneducated that you can be orally raping someone, right? Even sexual assault. Even coming back to the young Philly case, I'm not sure if you're aware of the young Philly case. He's obviously in Australia, and I think that's why it's important to also know the culture, the people you're going out there. I think from what I read, a girl must have come back to his hotel room. Now, a lot of guys have commented, well, if she's going back to the hotel room, isn't that consent? Firstly. Secondly, it's he's now been charged of 4 penetrative counts of rape, right, on top of like asphyxiation, on top of like hitting, like beating someone, and I think the judge said, based on the evidence they've got, it's enough to say that no one would have consented. Now, for example, someone like Philly, people could say he's used his position of power to,
what's the evidence?
Yeah, that's
this
what
is the
I'm
thing.
saying.
Is
I'm
well,
not commenting.
well, this is the thing.
I'm
So
not
obviously,
commenting, so I see
we're not
everything.
saying that he's guilty, but for them to keep him in Australia, they've kept him for the last 6 months in Australia, just say. What evidence does the police have to have for you to now be detained abroad for this charge? Is it all just circumstantial?
Just bearing in mind, before you answer that, I just want to say he's a public person of interest. So that I'm saying to you as in, because he's a public person of interest, that also I think might be why he's detained. I'm going to let the professional answer it. So,
Well, public person of interest aside, the issue with these kind of allegations, they could easily be done. All you need to do is pick up the phone, call the police and say, I didn't consent. Okay? The first issue on what you said was from what I read. can't rely on what we're reading.
Well,
we
obviously
can't rely on what's on the news in respect to young Philly. That's the first issue.
But the charges, they would have obviously been explicit because they named the charges. Now, just say even, let's break it down, 4 counts of...
The 4 counts, she's obviously submitted 4 separate occasions.
Well, it was all in one night.
Which I said, which could have all been done during the same night.
Okay, so it could have been all just vaginal rape. Because I thought maybe it's oral rape.
It could be all 4.
Okay.
It could, it could be all. But it comes down to her account, which can quite easily be fabrication. And this is the difficulty, males. This is why I'm not here to speak as a mother, but as a lawyer, the male sex, gender, you need to be very careful. You need to know who you're having sex with. Because I remember when I first qualified as a criminal defense advocate and someone turned to me and they said to me, again, out of ignorance and lack of knowledge, how can you defend a rapist? And I responded saying, how can you assume that they actually are a rapist? Because guess what? It's so easy to fabricate accounts. 100%. Now the police officer, just as I, as a lawyer, I take my client's instructions. If you tell me you didn't do it, I'm going on that. I can't tell you, you liar. Yeah, I can tell you, I'll be honest with you, the evidence is damning. Okay, my advice to you is guilty plea, preserve the credit. That's probably in your best interest. Because if you pursue not guilty and you get found guilty at a later date, credit's gone, etc., etc., okay? It's the same with police. If someone makes an allegation, police officers are not going to turn around and be like, you're lying. They're going to carry out their duties to investigate, okay? So, I've dealt with rape cases where the alleged victim in question was an ex-partner, found out that my client was cheating, out of spite and bitterness, all of a sudden all their sexual interactions have now become rape.
Yeah. I know someone who married, came in this country, had a child with someone, and then claimed a rape just so she can get her visa by herself easily.
Crazy.
And domestic violence. So,
very good point.
And that's quite common.
Criminal law overlaps with family, of course. DV, domestic violence cases, overlaps with immigration. So I'm actually dealing with a case now, and I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of cases where they're having issues in the family courts. So the alleged victim will purposely start throwing criminal charges at my client, so it's favourable to her in the family courts.
And it's so sad.
They're cheating the system.
The system here, it's to obviously protect women, but lots of women are taking advantage, making false allegations, and it's a shame because at the end it's young men that are impacted. They could lose their jobs. Young Philly's lost his whole probably credibility as a person. It might be hard for him to even come back into his field of work. But yeah, I hope this episode has been enlightening.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to invite you back in.
My advice is just get legal representation as soon as you can.
Yeah, man.
The evidence needs to be assessed, challenged, and your rights need to be protected.
Yeah. On that note, hopefully we can invite you back because this has been so great.
So much to say.
So much to say. Yeah. I've been Soraya.
I've been Paolo.
And we've been here to get your shit together.